Hi, welcome to Local Matters. Today, we have a special topic, one that a lot of us worry about, and sometimes we don't know what to do or where to go or who's helping those in our community that have mental health challenges. Well, today we're going to find out. We're going to meet my guests, who are Ginny Rake with Project Able and Lindsay Dent with Champion Team. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Well, two different organizations are here at one time, and we're going to kind of get to know about both of you. Probably will be wondering, how are you different? How are you alike? Well, let's start with that. How are you alike? What's the umbrella that covers what you do?
Well, what we do really is peer support. And peer support is part of mental health services. It's peer-delivered services. So the way that we conduct peer support is a little bit different, but we really do work together for the greater good of somebody's mental health and individuality.
Anything to add to that, Ginny?
Nope, she pretty much said it all.
All right. So, peer support. This is a word that when I have in here people from Provoking Hope, they talk a lot about peer support.
Yeah.
This is a term that I think people are becoming more familiar with, and it's also becoming more recognized as the way to go. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Jenny? What's been the evolving of peer support?
Well, peer support as a means of impacting people with mental health challenges especially really started back in the 1970s. It came out of the patients coming out of psychiatric hospitals and out of treatment, realizing that nothing should be done about us without us, and we can speak for ourselves and each other, and there's strength in the things that we have in common. So peer being something that most people understand is an equal relationship, and then support, finding ways to support each other mutually. So peer support in mental health challenges or any other challenge that someone has in their life, it's about reaching out and having a connection with people who really understand on a fundamental level the experiences that you've had, because they've had them themselves, or someone close by in their family has had those challenges as well, and can interact with each other in a way that's mutual and respectful and focuses on each other's strengths and what we want to do with our lives, not what somebody tells us we have to do with our lives. So to me, that's what peer support really is about, regardless of how it's played out or how it's put out there. That's the bottom line for peer support.
And Lindsay, you were talking about when you're supporting someone as a peer, you see them light up when what?
I've noticed that when they are able to just get everything off of their chest and open up to me, when I explain that I've gone through a similar situation with whatever they might be going through, sometimes I can really relate to somebody more than other times, of course. But there's just really that light bulb moment, and that you could just see the relief in their eyes about, I'm not alone in this struggle, and somebody else knows what it's like to feel through this.
Well, this is a very different model than what we think of when someone with mental illness goes to a psychiatrist or a psychologist and lays on a couch, and, and that person's taking notes in an easy chair, and they're saying Now, I don't want to belittle that there's help there, and there's a model there, and that works in ways that peer support fills in around, I guess. So it's a very different thing when that person gets off, they get eyeball to eyeball and go, yeah, I get it. And then that person can really help.
And there's even more to it than that, because there's the hope and the empowerment that come in from being able to realize that somebody has not just survived, but they've thrived. They've been able to get parts of their life or their life back where they want it to be in ways that mean something to them and isn't on somebody's checklist, that knowing that that's possible. So peer support is a way of communicating that, because an individual can meet with somebody who has overcome and found ways that work for them to cope or to feel better, or fill in the blanks, and just hearing pieces of that story and being with that person can give the individual hope. And then true peer support is really about empowering people to figure out what works for them and to go do it, find ways to make that happen. And that's very empowering. So peer support is not about telling somebody what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. It's about saying, hey, what do you need? What works for you? And how can I support you in making that happen? So.
All right, well, let's talk about your two different agencies, Champion Team and Project Able, two different parts of town, two different buildings, somewhat different models, and different services and similar services. So, Lindsay, let's talk with you about what you offer.
Yeah, Champion Team has a variety of programs and services for adults that identify as having had a mental health challenge at some point in their life, whether currently or in the past. We are open 7 days a week, and we have drop-in support for anybody that's just maybe needs to talk or is interested in doing some healing art, or a support group. So we've got support groups, several a day, and healing arts, like I just mentioned. We also do outings into the community. We do some groups that I think we call it our Random Act of Kindness group, where we'll all get together, and we made lunch bags for the homeless with our resources in it. We've done little rocks with just kind messages to spread around town. So we've got some of those things going on. We've also got a computer for people to use. Some people just don't really want to socialize, but they want to be in a safe place. So they'll go browse the internet or listen to music. A lot of times people want to use our relaxation room. We have a full body, I love this, we have a full body massage chair, and it's just marvelous. And we do meditations and other relaxing things in that room.
Well, this is quite a program you've gone through very quickly. Let me just back up. You have 7 days a week. You have open door. People can just come and be there.
Yes, that's a great explanation. People can just come and be just as they are. Yeah.
And there's someone on staff and also volunteers maybe waiting to be of support to whoever comes in.
We have peer supports that are there to make connections. They're there for themselves to get help, isn't really the word I want to use, but just supported and to be able to be as they are. And as part of that process, a lot of times they just want to give back also. And so we'll just talk with people individually or in a group. Yeah.
So someone might come in and, you're in the middle of an art class because you have classes scheduled. So they might come in and be invited to be in the art class.
Sure.
That can happen just like right now.
Yes, we don't require people to do anything. Whatever they're comfortable and have an interest in doing at the time is fine. But we would have somebody so they could choose to do an art class or kind of be in a quiet space in our relaxation room, or maybe they just need to talk to somebody. So we would have somebody available for them to talk to.
All right, well, we'll come back.
Sure.
I'd like you to think of an event just recently that just really worked. It just kind of encapsulated the success of a program in a story that you might want to tell us, okay?
Okay, I'll be thinking.
Yeah. Now, Ginny, you have a different model. You don't have a walk-in.
Right.
And so what do you have?
Well, I guess the best way to describe it would be that our side of the coin is that our support is much more direct, in one-on-one and intentional, in intentions coming from the person, not from us. But so if somebody comes in, we don't have a drop-in center, but we do have some activities and classes that people can more or less drop into. But ours is also focused a lot around wellness. Champion Teams is as well, but that's we've expanded beyond just mental health challenges and include anything that involves wellness. So it can be physical wellness as well. And so we have yoga and classes that are all around tools that you can use to enhance your own wellness. And then the primary thing that we do is direct peer support. So we match up trained volunteers with an individual to meet, usually in the community, for one-on-one peer support. Or in one of our programs, it's a facilitated team so that they can identify strength and goals and kind of work toward something that they want to accomplish, the individual. So that's kind of where our side of the coin is I just love the picture that hopefully people are getting here, that both Champion Team and Project Able have a variety of things to offer group-wise, directly. And if a person really wants to focus on what do I want to do to feel better, to manage my wellness, to connect, but what do I want to do specifically, then they can come to Project Able and we will facilitate that happening. If they would like to have more of group interaction or just be able to drop in, which is wonderful to be able to do, then Champion Team has fantastic resources for that. So we really complement each other, I believe. And that's what we do.
Now you have a direct, you assign, or you couple, you partner, your volunteers. Now these volunteers are peers. They are people
Yes.
that have had mental challenges,
Yes.
and they're now ready to see if they can be of support to other people.
Yes,
and they've been
actually,
trained.
They are trained, and we don't vet people for either support. If we don't ask them, do you have a diagnosis? Because that's not what we're about. If somebody comes in and they want to be a part of what we're doing, then they want to be a part of what we're doing. So, as far as I know, our volunteers are everywhere across the spectrum. Some of them have wellness challenges. Some of them might have mental health challenges. The biggest thing is they have a heart and they want to share their lived experience in a way that's positive. So we do train them in peer support, and we give them the opportunity also to take peer support specialist training, which is a state certification. And we give them ongoing support. And because of the nature of what we do, which is peer support, an individual can volunteer and still receive support for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And volunteers can say, hey, I could use some support right now. And we'll match them up with another volunteer to give them support. So it's very non-linear. It doesn't have any boxes. We try to get away from boxes. So
Now you do have different programs how you pair trained volunteers with individuals. You have Able Teams. Tell us about that.
Able Teams is 2 trained volunteers that facilitate a team process. So they will meet with an individual, usually one person to start with, and that individual is the focus of the team. So they can add other people to the team if they want to for support. They usually spend about a year meeting once a week. It's up to the individual how often. And they go through a process of identifying strengths, not just of the individual, but of the facilitators as well, and other people on the team, because it's all mutual. So they identify strengths. They then work through a process of kind of drilling down to what the individual really wants to accomplish. And that can be anything. And there's no mandate or anybody standing outside saying, you should accomplish this, 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 and this, and this. It's very up to the individual. And it's a fun process that we do. And then they work together as a team to support that person in finding ways to make those goals happen. So that's Able Teams.
The word coaching comes to mind. I mean, if I was an individual and I had been given you two as a pair of supporting peers, I would feel like, well, I have these 2 coaches and I have these things that I want to accomplish or some goals that you're going to be thinking about that and helping me feedback. Is that a fair way to look at it? No.
The difference is we try to stay away from coaches in that
Okay.
context because, and we call them facilitators for a reason, because the team is really about the individual and the process is about the individual and what they want to accomplish. So facilitating means that you basically are invested in the process and not in the outcome.
Mhm.
So if the individual, say, for example, wants to learn how to navigate the bus system, and so you're working together as a team to come up with ways for that to happen. We don't do anything for people. And suddenly they decide, that's not really so important to me anymore. I got a car, so I don't need to, or I learned how to ride my bike or whatever. Then we just go in that direction. There's no saying, oh, but you said you wanted to do this. It's non-directive. So that is different than a coach, because a coach usually has goals and kind of an outcome in mind for
Win the game.
Right, win the game. Whereas a facilitator, a good facilitator can plop down in any situation and facilitate the group or facilitate the team or the process and not be invested in the outcome. Our only desire is supporting an individual in accomplishing what they want to accomplish. And there's no judgment on motivation, lack of motivation, pacing, any of that. It's just facilitation. So that's one difference between coaching
Mhm.
and what we do.
All right,
So-
great. Now you have another way of pairing trained peers with individuals, and you call that wellness.
Yeah, we do use that word, but it's kind of one of those things because we're still trying to kind of dial it in.
Okay.
It's technically called peer wellness coaching on our material, but we don't like that word, as you just said in this context, or as I did. So it's...
What does it look like?
What it looks like is one individual meets with a trained volunteer, and they focus on that individual's wellness. So whatever that looks like to the individual, it's a lot like an ABLE team, but it doesn't have as much structure.
Mm.
So a person can come in and say, hey, I would really like to go swimming. And we do have scholarships available for reimbursement for various activities. So I would really like to start using the pool, but maybe they don't want to go by themselves, or they're not quite sure how to get started, or so their peer might go swimming with them, or at least sit down with them once a week and see how things are going. Or we've had people who want to walk or lose weight or manage their diabetes or learn how to knit. We've had people who had a particular interest in a hobby, and maybe it got kind of lost in the shuffle of trying to figure out medication or dealing with their diagnosis. We don't deal with that, but they are, and so they want to do something different, and they want to get back to doing that. And so they have somebody that they can do that with, or that can support them and say, hey, yeah, let's think about how this could work for you. So that's what peer wellness is.
Okay. And then there's one more way that you pair trained volunteers with individuals around trauma support. What does that look like, or how has it looked?
Trauma support is probably the least structured of anything. We match, again, an individual with a volunteer. And a lot of times that is just somebody to talk to on the phone or text. We try to encourage them to meet once a month if they can. Sometimes when people are figuring out how to get past trauma or they're stuck, we're not psychologists or crisis counselors or anything like that, but we can give them active, attentive listening. We can, again, focus on strengths and bring that hope and encouragement to somebody. And we have had some really powerful examples of people who have trauma support has literally saved their lives. Not because they went to a crisis center, but just because they had somebody to talk to every week that just listened to them and encouraged them. And not in a directive way, but just being there supportive. And they will tell you, if it hadn't been for trauma support, I I wouldn't be here. And to me, that's beyond powerful. So.
I'm going to bring up a kind of a different subject here, but I see a lot of trauma support, peer counseling on Facebook. I see people reaching out that are not happy, and they're going through some sort of crisis, and then friends come and say, I'm praying for you, hang in there. What can I do for you? Here's my phone number. It's just kind of it's a wonderful thing to see. People rally around it. That kind of, it's peer support. It's not looking for something. So when you say they were texting, I immediately thought of, social media. I see that kind of thing going on right on with my friends.
Right. I think that the only difference really is that when we do peer support intentionally, it has some parameters around it that are a little bit different than reaching out as a friend, because we're really focused on empowering individuals rather than doing things for them. So a friend might, come over and help you mow your lawn, and that would be perfectly appropriate. A peer support person would you would work together to find a way to get that happening without you actually doing it for them.
So this is part of the training.
Yeah.
So you have someone that's being trained, and they want to fix it. They want to jump in and, I know how you can do that. Let me help you do that. So that you have to kind of train that out of someone.
Yes, we do.
And train into them.
That's a big part of peer support specialist training.
Facilitating, I heard you use another word about supporting that person to figure it out themselves more than coming across there and doing it for them.
It's because we fundamentally believe that individual people have capabilities and strengths and resources that maybe they aren't seeing, maybe other people aren't seeing. A lot of times somebody will look, let's put it this way. Our natural instinct when somebody presents us with a problem is to rush in with a solution. It's amazing how, regardless of peer support, when we're allowed or we're encouraged to take a step back and seek that individual's input into how they want to solve their problem, or if the problem needs to be solved, it's amazing how much more powerful that is than us just jumping in immediately with a fix.
And maybe if I took that step back, I would be surprised at how different what the individual came up with than what I had planned for them.
And what's really awesome is that when I take a step back and I'm not doing the fixing, the individual gets the opportunity to succeed on their own terms. And that is amazing to see, because when we do it for them, we're robbing them of a chance, of an opportunity to say, I did this. I figured this out. I did it, me.
Yeah.
I have this in me that I can do this.
That kind of energy you're expressing right now leads me back to what I left you with, Lindsay. Maybe an idea or something that would help our viewers understand what kind of successes, what kind of breakthroughs, what kind of progress, what does that look like?
There's so many that come to mind. I hear daily, like what you said, if it wasn't for Champion Team and you guys being here, I would not be alive right now. And so that's pretty profound in itself.
That's bottom line stuff right there.
And I hear that regularly from different people. So it just reaffirms the work that we're doing. But somebody that comes to mind came to us a while back that had been in and out of psychiatric wards, just really struggling, suicidal, had some mental health challenges, and at first wouldn't really talk, would just come and just be, but knew that they were interested in it. And then they began attending some of our support groups and opening up and trusting that it was a safe place to share their challenges and their struggles. And today, this individual in particular has decided that they want to, facilitate their own groups. So they're facilitating some groups at Champion Team, and not only are they coming to Champion Team, but just made leaps and bounds in their other personal lives and with relationships, and are now back into the church and with Project Able and other organizations, and wanting to quit smoking and actively trying to quit smoking cigarettes. So once they realize that they really are empowered to make their own choices and we're here to support them along the way, people want to choose to be well. People want to choose to be happy and healthy. And so it's amazing to see, that example and so many others making great choices for themselves because they're just supported.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful example for someone that's coming in just in the door for the first time, to be able to hear that story of that person,
Yes.
what I had been through, and now here's where I am, and that gives people hope.
It does.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Well, Lindsay, you went through a lot of what you do there, and I wanted to back up. We talked about the drop-in. We opened that up a little bit. Let's talk about arts and crafts. You talked about painting nice phrases on stones and putting them around town anonymously. I'm going to go looking for stones now.
Sure, yes. I haven't really found any yet, but yeah.
So arts and crafts.
Uh-huh.
And you offer that almost every day?
At least a few times a week, depending
Okay.
on our calendar and other things going on. Creativity and creative expression is really important in the healing process, I think. And we have, a big craft room where people can either do it freely. We've done just a variety of different things, and normally it's what our members want to see have happen. So just last week, I think it was, we made some relaxation jars with the glitter and the jars where people can just shake them just to look at it, or if they are struggling and want to just cope and be able to watch the jar to ease their anxiety. We've done some like watercolor work. There's just so many different things that we've done as far as crafts and healing art. Today they were working on some plastic canvas to make some plastic canvas coasters for around our place. There's just all sorts of things.
And then outings, field trips. Tell us about some fun field trips.
Sure. So we're getting ready next month for our second annual beach trip. So we'll go to the beach. Last year we actually went with some peer organizations out in Salem. So the Project Able in Salem, and there's another consumer-run organization that we partnered with and met there and just had a barbecue. And so we're looking forward to doing that again next month. We've done the zoo. We've gone even just to the park down the road to play frisbee golf. We had our peer picnic last month, which was a really great collaborative event to celebrate National Mental Health Month in May. And so we all went out there to just, have a picnic and some community and some games, and
Awesome.
and that was fun. So again, it depends on what the membership is interested in doing. We've gone to all sorts of things. We've gone to Linfield baseball games, art galleries,
Shows at the gallery.
shows at the Gallery Theater, ways to get involved in the community and just be able to have fun and get out there.
Well, we just have a few seconds left. I want
Sure.
to end, Lindsay, by asking you, how did you come to this work?
So really, I have experience with childhood trauma, and the first time I tried to take my life, really, I was 13 years old, and then a few times after that, and got involved in drugs and alcohol as an adolescent and was homeless and had some psychiatric symptoms. And it was what I remember really was how scary it was. And I wouldn't open up to anybody about my psychotic break, really, out of fear that I would get locked up or etc. So I was able to heal and get clean and sober, but I never really found recovery. I never knew what peer support was until it was introduced to me just a few years ago. And since then, I've really been able to open up. Before now, I wouldn't even be able to tell you that I've struggled with suicidal thoughts in my past, because that's just a hush-hush thing that people don't talk about. So since it was introduced to me just a few years ago, I've really found an interest in it. Personally, it's really helped me in my recovery journey, as well as just being able to give back and help other people on a similar journey.
Well, that seems like the best definition of peer support I think that we could hear. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And I've certainly learned a lot, and I hope those at home have found what's being done and what could be done for them.
Mhm.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.